All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you for listening, watching, following, and subscribing. Appreciate y'all very much. Today's episode is brought to you by Imperial Pizza. Two locations, the staple location at 1035 Abbott Road in South Buffalo, and also brand new location, 1655 Main Street near Canisius College. I'm excited about today's episode because, well, for a lot of reasons, but first and foremost, if you're an OG watcher or listener to Talking Buffalo, you know the foundation of this show was built on having guests on for the first time and giving people an opportunity to learn more about them. Over the years, this has kind of delved more into traditional sports talk, but these are my favorite types of shows. And after doing like 700 or so of these episodes, it's not often that I get an opportunity to get somebody on from the Buffalo sports or news media that hasn't been on before and having the opportunity to do these types of shows. But got one today, man. Channel 7 sports anchor reporter Dom Tibbetts is with me. What's going on, dude? How you doing?
I'm good, Patrick. First off, thank you for having me on. It feels good to lead the charge of the new wave of sports and news media that are coming on to Talking Buffalo. I'll wear that as a badge of honor. But no, thank you for reaching out. I'm happy to be here and excited to talk.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on, man. And I kind of, like I said, for fans, these types of shows are more of an opportunity to get to know Dom, like his life, his career up through this point, some of your likes, some of your dislikes. These are like I said, my favorite types of shows. And we'll go, actually, let's go to the beginning. Now, I've done some homework, and let me preface this too, by the way. Some people that I've had on the show, even if it's their first time, I've known them, and it's just been in having an opportunity to be able to connect with them. In this
Right.
case here with Dom, quite literally, we talked for I don't know what, maybe 2 to 3 minutes before we started rolling the camera and the recorder here. Besides that, I've literally never had a conversation with you before, so I'm looking forward to this too and getting to know more about you just as well. Like I said, as the people who are watching or listening to this show, let's go to the beginning. Like I said, I've done my homework. I do my homework with
Yeah,
these
let's
things.
roll. All right.
You're a native of Syracuse?
Yep. Syracuse native. So grew up all my life in Syracuse. Primarily, I lived in Camillus. I'm a West Genesee alum. I don't know who from the Central New York 315 area is going to listen to this and be like, that's a West Genny guy right there. Probably
Yeah.
few, but yeah, no. So didn't grow up very far away. Went to Onondaga Community College for 2 years after I graduated, and then went and got my bachelor's in Ithaca, and then got right into the business, man. So it's been a ride. It's good to finally get back. It's funny is I told so much of my family and friends. I said once I get into this business, I was like, I don't really have a desire to move back to New York. Syracuse was an option after my first job. And it just, the timing was off, didn't really work out. It was the middle of COVID too, tough to
Yeah.
find a job. And it's nothing against the stations of Syracuse. I've interned at both 3 and 9 there. So, and big fan of Stephen Fani. He's a mentor to me, as was Nico Tamarian, who's now in Seattle. But I always told my family and friends, I was like, there's 2 jobs I'd move back to New York for. And I was like, I'm probably never going to get them. But if I'm younger, I would go back down to the city. And if anybody gave me the opportunity to cover Buffalo sports, I would take it. And then, here we are. So,
Yeah.
as a guy who came from Florida in this last station prior to coming up here, I was like, this is pretty hard to leave. And right opportunity came along.
I lived in Florida for 5 years, and we're going to get to that because I know a couple places that you worked before coming back here to New York. And I really think you want to talk about some culture shock, like the places you live compared to where you grew up and where we
Dude,
are right now here in Buffalo.
wild.
Definitely going to, yeah, I want to get to that stuff. Going back to Cuse though, as a kid growing up, like, were you into sports right away as a kid? Did you play sports? Like, what were some of your hobbies when you were just a young kid growing up in Syracuse?
No, it really was. Like I was a sports fan all my life. I can remember the distinct moment, 7, 8 years old. And now I didn't have this weird childhood where I was like, sports analytic guy, like Warren Sharp was just like crunching numbers from 8 years old.
Sure.
But around that time, I just remember I flipped on Sports Center And every morning before school, I would just watch it. And I would, and that was back when SportsCenter had the kind of the old format. You could see the rundown on the side of the screen. You could
Yeah.
see the highlights of everything they're getting to. And I would just watch that again religiously every morning. And so much so that my dad would come out, he'd be getting ready for work, and he'd be like, Dom, Lakers game score. I'd be like, 117 to 100. Kobe had 47. It was crazy, triple double, so sports has always been, something I was fascinated in. I never really thought it would be a career because I played baseball, basketball. My football career ended after my freshman season. I was going to be a receiver. I was not fast nor tall enough to play receiver. I was too small to be a tight end, and might not seem it, but at the time I was too skinny to be a lineman. So just was out of the picture. And I made it 6 weeks on a junior college baseball team, when I went to OCC during tryouts before the coach and I mutually were like, okay, this probably isn't going to work out for either of us. So it's funny is, I've always had the desire to want to work in sports, but not any way has to do with, because I'm a former athlete,
Right.
that's never really been a part of that conversation. So
Uh,
the only other thing I will say was funny is I did want to be a forensic scientist growing up, and then all of a sudden had like a switch of the flip. I met this guy who worked for CBS Sports, Dave Ryan. He introduced me to his world as a play-by-play guy, and I was hooked from there. That's really where it started.
Every boy growing up, every kid is going to be in the NFL until they get to high school.
Yeah.
Like you said, your freshman, sophomore year, you figure out like maybe that's not going to happen.
Dude, we knew I was in like fifth grade. It's like, I don't know if I don't know how far he's going to get. I think my parents were being really nice, but they knew that one of us were going to be paying for my college education. There was no scholarship in my future.
But you know what? I still feel like playing youth sports is important. Not
Oh,
just even
absolutely.
for the athletic part of it. Some kids are better than others, like on the field or on the courts or on the ice or whatever. But I really do think it's important growing up to play sports because it kind of gives you a sense of discipline, building chemistry as a team, working together as a team. I think there are little
100%.
life lessons as a kid that kind of helps you when you become an adult. And so you're saying that at a younger age, you knew that ultimately this was the type of line of work that you would want to be in. I just I think it's amazing the variance of people that I've talked to in sports media or news media and the routes that they go to ultimately get to where they're at. I've had Joe Biscaglia on the show, and he pretty much was keeping spreadsheets at 7, 8 years old. He knew damn well when he was 7, 8 years old what he was going to grow up to do. Then
Joe
you had
B. Oh
yeah,
my God.
yeah,
I love Joe B. Fellow leading the
yeah,
charge,
yeah, he's
analyst. He's a sicko with that kind of stuff. Just an absolute sicko. Love Joe.
some of the best spreadsheets that you'll ever see in your life. Some of the most well kept spreadsheets with Joe. But anyway, he knew what he was going to do when he was really young. I become good friends with Matt Perino over the last handful of years, who covers the Buffalo Bills for New York or New York.com. And he didn't know what the hell he was going to do when he was younger. He flunked out of college at one point. Then he figured out what he was going to do, and it's worked out very well for him. But everybody takes like these different paths to get to where they are. But you talked about knowing what you were going to want to do at kind of a relatively young age. Let me ask you this too, by the way. Growing up in Syracuse, what were some of your favorite teams? Like, did you grow up a Buffalo Bills fan? Were you a fan of other teams? Who were you a fan of?
Yeah, so Syracuse basketball still to this day,
Sure.
bleed orange. I know things didn't go well with Jim Boeheim in the last couple of years, but
Right.
he'll forever, have my heart. I'm indebted to him for bringing a national
Mhm.
championship. I was young in 2003, but I can still remember where I was with my family watching them beat Kansas by 3. I think it was, I don't think Kirk Heinrich made the pass, but it was a guy in the corner. And I just remembered the Hakeem Warwick block, and that solidified. I mean, that was another moment to solidify my love for sports. My mom and her side of the family were big Bills fans. My dad was a Giants fan. My mom won the argument. I was, raised in a house and full of family that were predominantly Bills fans. So that I'll tell you what. During the lean years, Pat, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about sticking through and finding endurance because it's fun. I had, buddies who were fans of other teams, and they're talking about like playoff parties and Super Bowls. And I'm like, well, listen, Aaron Mabin is on the draft board next year, guys. Like maybe this could be it. And then it's funny is I'm a big baseball guy. I love baseball. It was,
Yeah.
predominantly the sport I would play the most growing up. And like I said, I tried my best to make somewhat of a college career out of it. But I was an Angels fan, which is weird for a lot of people. And I was an Angels fan
Oh, really?
long before Albert Pujols and Mike Trout ever came along. I'm talking like Darren Erstad, David Eckenstein, Tim Salmon, Troy Gloss. It was
Wow.
because remember those old Sports Illustrated TV commercials where it'd be like, come get your collector's edition memorabilia from X, Y, and Z champion. They did one for the Angels when I was like 5, 6 years old, whenever it was in 02. And I just remember looking at the screen and I was like, that's my team. I had a lot of family wanting me to be Yankee fan. My dad was a Pirates fan. I had too many losers in my life to begin with, so he was like, "I don't want this life for you." And I was like, "That's my team." I became an Angels fan, and I've stuck through good and bad.
That's really cool. I actually got a really good friend, a buddy of mine, Mike, who grew up an Angels fan as well. I thought he would be the only Angels fan I ever knew in my life. So I guess now
Now you
I
got
know.
two.
Now I know too. And that's
I
right.
only know one other too. It's crazy, and it goes to because of Rod Carew, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's a specific player that creates your love, and you just kind of roll with it.
So you came up. That's right. You did come up like kind of during the Bills drought era where you're looking at mock drafts by Thanksgiving pretty
Yeah,
much every year. That's interesting.
yeah. And
Uh,
every year, we said in the motto in the house, "This is our year. This is our year."
so
Next year.
so you go to all right. So you decide to go to college. You said you go to community college 2 years, and you go to Ithaca. What were some of the things that you did in school and to kind of ready you for what would become your career, if anything, that you did while in college? Or were you still kind of
Sure.
figuring that out at that point?
No, at that point, Pat, I was pretty I knew I was gung ho, and especially when I got into community college, and I credit at my time at OCC, it was called the Electronic Media Communications Program. Now it's the Broadcast Media Communications Program.
Mm,
Quick plug for them, but only because it was a move I wasn't sure. Like there's a lot of negative stereotypes that came around going to a community college. 13th grade when you're in Syracuse, OCC is kind of looked as like 13th, 14th grade. All my buddies were going to like, SUNY schools. I had a buddy who went to Arizona State, had the
yeah,
time of his life. So I'm just, part of that was like some anxiousness and trying to figure out how I'm going to roll from there. But it was the best decision I made my life because it gave me such a great foundation. That's where I was able to intern under Stephen Fani at Channel 9 in Syracuse. And I became really good friends with Nico Tamurian. He was my sportscasting teacher. And then, I would work with him even when I wasn't getting internship credit. Like over the summer,
yeah.
he would bring me in and we would just go out and shoot things, cover a lot of Syracuse stuff and other local things. So that was, I think, the most important was that foundation. And then in Ithaca was great because there's so much opportunity. I started doing play-by-play a little bit at OCC, but really, when you get a big student-run television with the kind of budget Ithaca had, that's what sold me on it when I took a trip there. I was so convinced, Pat, that I was going to go to St. Bonaventure out of community college because I almost
Really?
picked it. I almost picked it out of high school. My cousin and her now husband are Bonnie alums. She showed me it twice. Bless your heart, Vicky, because she drove from Baltimore, Maryland 2 times to come show me Bonaventure, and both times I picked a different school. But I do love Bonaventure. I did love it. It was the ultimate factor of just I felt like there was a little bit better outlook for me at Ithaca, and that's who would have known? Hindsight's always 2020, but
Sure.
yeah, it started getting things rolling, got the ball rolling at Ithaca. Really kind of hit my groove, I would say, like spring semester of my senior year. I came back from Los Angeles, did a semester out there, and I was doing a lot of play-by-play, a lot of studio hosting, and every young sportscaster at that point thinks to themselves, "Oh, I'm going to be a play-by-play guy. I'm absolutely going to get big full-time play-by-play jobs out of school." Idiot I was thinking that, it's much like local journalists. Like it's a grind to get to where you need to be. And there wasn't, when I was job searching, in the beginning of the semester, I was just having a hard time getting a reel together that I thought was good enough to, put me in the conversation for some of these jobs and these freelance play-by-play opportunities. And my buddy, who wanted to be a news reporter, was like, you should look into, where you started, like just do local sports.
Right.
He's like, it's a good foundation for everybody. A lot of people get to where, big networks and big regional sports networks starting in local sports. And that was huge. I made a reel, and then we got out of school, applied to tons of jobs before my first station ever said yeah. And yeah, it was a good journey. I'm glad it went the way it did, because I think I learned a lot about, sticking through it, going through the grind, and kind of
Yeah.
appreciating the journey it takes to get to, where I am right now, sitting here talking to you in Buffalo, talking about, covering teams that, I grew up watching. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
cool.
I got to tell you. So, all right. So you get done with school. Like you said, you start, you're applying for jobs and such. And I could see people, you come out of school. Maybe I know a lot of people like you might start working at Ithaca or small, some small area in New York or
Mhm.
Ohio or something like that. I go on your bio and I look it up and I'm like, you go to Butte, Montana.
Dude.
How did an opportunity to end up in Butte, Montana come about? And before you even answer, just also talk about just the culture because till that point you've lived in Syracuse in the area, New York State. Montana, I mean, weather-wise, is cold weather, 4 seasons and stuff, but just I don't think it could be any different in Butte, Montana. I told my wife, by the way, that I was gonna have you on the show and that you worked in Butte, Montana, because my wife is obsessed with, like, Montana, Wyoming, the
Mhm.
Yellowstone area, all that stuff
Oh
out
yeah.
there.
Oh
So I
yeah.
gotta ask you, man, how did you end up there? And talk about, like, life and just how different it probably is living in Butte, Montana.
Yeah, it was a 180. And going back to what I was getting into before, you asked me that question, was out of school, I applied to, it was 41 different local television stations, play-by-play gigs too, and everybody just said no.
Wow.
I wasn't even getting interviews. And then this one station, I'll never forget, submitting my application. I thought it was pronounced "but," and I did it as a joke. And I did it as a joke because I'm like, I told one of my, I think my mom or a close buddy, and I was like, watch, I get this job because I'm going to apply to this, and I don't really care. I don't really want it, and I'm going to have to move out to Montana because we're the only one that says yeah. Well, careful what you wish for, because they were the only one that gave me an interview. They said yes. But the sports director at the time is a good friend of mine now, Nick Petriccioni. He was from the Albany area, and he just kind of knew my background. And really, it was down between me and another guy. And he just, because of our geographical similarity of growing up in New York, he understood
Mhm.
where I came from Ithaca, and he went with me, and it was turned out to be a great decision for the both of us because obviously we're still friends to this day. And and it's funny. I look back on it. I wish I could tell that 21-year-old Dom that was sitting at his house in Camillus, dude, take that Butte job. It was the greatest thing, Pat, that ever happened. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, first off, like, your wife has every reason to be obsessed about Montana. It is as
Yeah,
beautiful as Yellowstone makes it out to be. Of course, there's a little bit of like sensationalization that
of
happens with
course.
Yellowstone, but I love Yellowstone because believe it or not, there are little intricacies within Yellowstone that are true. There are some, Taylor Sheridan, the creator and writer of it, has a ranch in Montana. I think he just bought the 4.6s in Texas, but he knows enough about Montana to not make it BS. Because one thing you're not going to do to a Montanan is you're not going to get them to overlook some BS. So, but it was just great because you covered, small NAI schools like Montana Tech and Montana Western. I got to dip my feet into Montana State, which is a big FCS school. They're consistently in the FCS national championship
Yeah.
conversation, which was awesome. Butte was, I still, I think when I die one day, part of my ashes have to be spread in Butte, Montana. It was because it's just when you are 21-year-old to the point you were making is, I didn't know anything else. I had spent a semester in Los Angeles that senior year. That was the farthest away from home I ever got, and I knew I was coming back. I had to go back to Ithaca and finish my last semester. So,
Right.
it was almost like a glorified vacation. That was Montana. Like this is I'm an adult now. It's my life, and I took it with the attitude of, let me just see how much of this I can absorb, make the best out of the situation.
Sure.
I'm probably not going to be here forever, but I'm
Right.
going to work hard and make it happen. And I think that attitude really went a long way because I still have a lot of friends and a lot of connections in the greater Southwest to southern Montana area because of, they valued what I did, and I really did. I put my heart and soul into it, and I did that, and it was like a token of love by the end of it. Like I've very rarely have ever gotten like emotional about leaving a place, but Montana was tough because we were in the middle of a pandemic too, so it's just a weird time to have to leave because there's no place better for be in a pandemic than Montana. So you're 6 feet of space given. That's
No
every day.
problems, no
So
problems, no problems in
uh,
Montana with space.
yeah, no
I,
kidding.
I think it's really important, especially for younger people, if you get an opportunity, whether it's for your career or just personal, to go and spend time in other parts of the country. I just think that makes you so much more well cultured, and you just understand other areas so much more
For
than just
sure.
people who've just lived in one place their whole life. Home is awesome, but it's great to be able to experience other cultures and
Yeah.
other places for sure. All right, so that's obviously really different than in New York. So is Florida. Now, in 2020, summer of 2020, and this is something I can relate to. Like you're telling me about Butte, Montana. I got no damn idea in the world what you're talking about. What I can relate to very much is Florida. So the summer of 2020, you go down to Tallahassee or for an ABC affiliate. And this was during peak COVID too, the summer of
Yeah.
2020. So
Yep.
talk about going to Florida, the opportunity to go down to Florida, what it was like working during COVID, which obviously had a lot of challenges, even in Florida, where it was much less strict, let's just say, than New York
Yeah.
and some other places. I lived in Sarasota, Bradenton area for 5 years, right around the same time that you did. So I
Hmm.
know what it was like. I lived in Florida during COVID as well. But just talk about the opportunity. I would assume that this was an opportunity to kind of advance your career a little bit by going to Tallahassee. So just talk about that experience.
For sure. And one thing I'll say too is obviously during COVID time, man, it was tough finding sports jobs. I felt like I was back in square one, and
Sure.
I was very grateful that ABC 27 was a Scripps station. I had gotten bought out by Scripps when I was in Montana, so it was a nice internal transfer to me to have to go down there. And then I really got to dip my toes into Division 1 coverage and covering FSU and FAMU, Valdosta State. And the challenges with COVID were certainly prevalent. A lot of anchoring from home, a lot of doing stuff from out in the field. You get there and you understand this. That is one thing I was not prepared for, was getting there in late August and dealing with a Florida summer. I
Oh,
I stepped out of my first story. I was in Pelham, Georgia, because the Tallahassee DMA is unique there in the Panhandle, where you're still coming up into
right.
Valdosta, even up into Colquitt County. So you're really, I mean, high school football wise, you're getting cream of the crop between North Florida and Southern Georgia. I mean, there's a guy named Terrion Arnold who's a DB from Alabama, who's a projected top 15 pick. I covered him in high school.
Yeah.
Terrion is a good dude. Like it's amazing the talent that's down there. But I remember stepping out of this car at Pelham High School in Georgia, and before I even walked over 10 feet to shake the hand with the coach, drenched in sweat. I had to go back to my house, change the shirt. I couldn't shoot the stand up for the story because
It's
my gray shirt was
crazy.
wet. It was so
And
sticky.
it rains every day for like 6 months too in the summer, or at least 4 or 5 months. It rains all the time. It's just so, so, so different. Yeah.
A monsoon, a tsunami feels like it comes in for all of 10 minutes. I remember
Yeah.
so many times I'd be driving on the I-10 and I'd be like, oh, well, this is where it ends. I can't see anything in front of me aside from the tractor trailer lights that are
Yeah.
there. And then thankfully it just lets up all of a sudden. And then it's blue skies, humidity sets back in. So the challenges were definitely good in the fact that it just, you're able to adapt. You learn how to kind of make the best out of nothing in that situation. I was very grateful for that opportunity too. Covering what I thought would be, a great opportunity for Division 1 sports looked a whole lot different though, because despite the fact Florida, as you said, was a little bit more lenient on their rules during COVID and kind of their expectations of how people were to go about live their lives, like Florida State, FAMU, VSU, all kind of abided by their own rules. So I remember covering Florida State thinking, I'm going to get Norvell in his rebuild, right? And it was some really tough times in Florida State. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
that was a tough period to be covering that team. but you're still doing a lot of Zooms, a lot of Zoom interviews, practice very brief. We all had to be spread out along the sideline, very limited, like 5 to 10 minutes of you to gather video, having to put a lot of that back home and make graphics to kind of build up your story a little bit more. So
Mhm.
it allowed me actually really, and going back to the high school conversation, I was able to really dive into the high school scene in North Florida and Southern Georgia because it's so big. And whether it's football, basketball, baseball, track, I mean, the athletes down there are very talented, and there's tons of stories, and they go on to do amazing things. And Tallahassee is a big destination for, I think, like baseball, right? Like, talk to David Ross, World Series champion David Ross, who's from Tallahassee,
Yeah.
former Chicago Cubs manager. He used to put on a father-son camp every year, and him and I would just talk about baseball and life and things like that. So those kind of opportunities, along with the work you get to do, which is covering good Division I universities. I joke a lot with uh, some of the Bills PR staff. One ex Xavier went to Prairie View A&M. I covered FAMU, and now my Bills credential hangs on a FAMU lanyard. He hates it. He hates it so
Eh,
much because they just won the Celebration Bowl this year. Same with Illinois State. They're a great Division II school with a lot of success who consistently put themselves in a national championship conversation. So grateful is definitely an understatement to the kind of coverage I got to do down there. Because despite the fact that you're in COVID, and even towards the end of my time there, things were starting to get back to normal. Um, you still feel like you weren't missing a beat. Like, the transition back to normalcy wasn't so sharp. It didn't feel so
right,
severe. It felt like you
right.
were right back in your groove, and the connections and relationships there, much like Montana, are, I'll have, friends and connections for a lifetime now.
Before we get into Buffalo and take a break too, you bring up Florida, and again, being down there for 5 years, you mentioned high school football, and I just for people upstate here or Western New York watching this, unless you live there, it's really hard to appreciate the talent and the football, especially the football programs. I can speak for football.
Right.
I know it's other schools too. My son played at a big time school in high school. Honorable mention all state player. He had 14 D2 offers. Anyway, he played on a team over the course of 3 years with 7 or 8 D1 players on his team. Every single week they played, every game I went to, there were 2 to 3 minimum, 2 to 3 D1 players. And I'm not talking like nothing against UB. UB's a pretty solid mid-major program, but I'm talking like Power 5 conference
Oh yeah.
types
Oh yeah.
of athletes out there just every single week. Just I've never seen anything like it. These kids in high school and college football in Florida, where you lived and you worked for a while, I think it's bigger than pro sports in Florida. Like, they care
Oh,
about college and high school more than pros.
couldn't agree more. And that's a credit. Yeah, I'll give credit to Allison Posey, my former sports director, who still works down in the market there. Like, she understood that. That's what she made, she's why she's done so well down in that market too. And that bled into me. And you're so right though,
Yeah.
because yeah, I can mention, anything from like the Bucks to the Dolphins to the Jaguars here and there. Especially in Tallahassee, they want the Knowles, they want the Rattlers, they're going to want the Blazers up in Valdosta, and pump them full of high school
Yeah.
because parents are proud of the kids they are. Like, it's, you go to and talk like, linemen that are committed to Georgia, and it's how I feel when I talk to Greg Rousseau in the locker room. Like, I'm like up here giving him the Statue of Liberty with my microphone. I'm talking to 16-year-old kids, so I have to, like, they're towering over me, and I'm like, yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, it must be cool to be you, huh?
Yeah.
It's different. It's a whole different ballpark down there.
Yeah, it is. It really is wild. Like I said, on the team my kid played on, they had 3 running backs. One went to Marshall, one went to, South Carolina, and the other one's at Auburn.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. Anyway, take a real quick break, come back, more with, Dom Tibbetts. We're gonna get into Buffalo and some other fun stuff too. Be right back. All right, we're back. All right, so it was, summer 22. You get an opportunity to come back to Buffalo. You get to come to Buffalo, work at Channel 7 here, talk about that opportunity. Often I ask, was it a difficult decision to make? Maybe I'm wrong, and I could be, but I assume this would be not the most difficult decision of your life to get an opportunity and come to this current job. Just talk about that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was
Right.
good. A lot of times when you talk to people who make like, when you're negotiating, you're talking about contracts. And I had been talking to another station shortly before my news director Aaron Mason messaged me, and we got the ball rolling there. And it's always like you never take the first offer. Well, I mean, leaving the negotiation part out of it, like when Buffalo came in, I kind of like was like, all right, this is it. This is where I want to go. I also wanted to be back a little bit closer to home. I'd
Mhm.
done 4 years of living across the country, over 1,000 miles away from the family. I wanted to be a little bit closer to home. I thought my
Sure.
family would like to have me back a little bit closer. Now I'm a car ride away from home, not a half a day worth of flying. But it was a good decision. It was a pretty easy decision when all was said and done, and the contract was in front of me. And it was it was something, like I said, going back to the beginning, like if I could tell that 21-year-old kid who almost didn't take the chance to go into Butte, Montana, if I could just have told him like, dude, you're gonna love it, and believe me, it's gonna pay off, I would have, because it really did.
You you bring up a good point too. It's always nice to be close to home, but without necessarily being at home. Where you get in a
Precisely.
car, it's kind of like having some people have dogs, and you don't really want a dog, but you like playing with a dog a little bit. You can play with a dog a little bit, but when it's time to go, you can you can
Right.
leave. Now,
Right.
even though, like I said, you grew up not far away, and you lived in Montana, you lived and worked in Florida, you come to Buffalo. Was it still a little bit of an adjustment at least getting? I mean, I know you knew Buffalo some, but to actually live in Buffalo, like what was that adjustment like?
Oh, for sure, because this is the first time I've covered professional sports, which is a different entity than it is itself. And
Absolutely, sure.
to our Florida conversation, this is like people care about professional sports, like
Yeah.
majorly. The Bills and Sabres command so much attention, and not to mention the Bandits and their faithful fan base, like they're NLL champions. So it was a shock, and I don't know if shock's the right word, but it was an adjustment because you know you focus on the college and high school here, but pro sports does take such a major front seat to the coverage here. And you got a little bit of like training camp preview. I think I was covering some sailing games, just stuff in there in the summer. But then like when training camp hits, it is a different beast. Like you are August to January, and you understand this as a content creator.
Yeah.
You are even on my off days, like it is still, you are pushing content, you are writing stories and covering the Bills. And when they're done, you have the Sabres to look forward to if they can pull it together. So, and that was another cool thing too, is like, by default, I grew up, liking the Sabres. I think I kind of fell out of touch with hockey a little bit when I was in late high school, early college, just
Mhm.
because the Sabres were going through some lean years and I was kind of doing my own thing. But it's been great to kind of like reinvigorate my love for the sport and to really dive in and be around people who cover it, because it's helped me become better at covering hockey, which is obviously a vital piece to doing this job here. So yeah, it was easy. It was a good decision. Not that much of a shock, but just an adjustment, and trying to just feel like I can be comfortable too. Like, I say this to, and I might have been talking to my parents about this recently, but for all the good reasons though. So this is nothing against anybody who does the things that we do. Buffalo's a very like saturated sports market in terms of like how much content people have, but
Big
in all
time.
the best ways though, because there's the need for it. People want that, and I that's what I love about this community, is that it's not tiresome. Like people really do crave that, and so the first year maybe or so, just trying to like carve a little niche for myself and embed myself into this, I always thought was something that would just take time, a little bit of patience. And this year I felt really good about what we were able to do, what I was able to do. And now I, truly do feel like, could be in the conversation with, people who cover this. And, I liked, you're not looking for like the retweets or the likes necessarily and everything, but it's nice to see that people, care about what I say now. Cause when I
Sure.
first got here, I didn't know if that was the case. There's a lot of very talented people that do the kind of things that we do. So you feel like it's hard to carve your spot into that niche, but here we are, and it's been a great ride.
Well, you're right. I mean, the market is heavily saturated with sports content in Buffalo. A lot of it good, some of it maybe not as much. We'll leave it at that. But anyway, so you're covering a professional team. that is an adjustment because that's a lot different than covering a high school beat or even a college beat, whether it's just the stature of the athletes, the personality of the athletes, the protocols, the rules that come with covering, professional teams. Like so you're in COVID, pressers were a lot different. They still
Oh
kind of
yeah.
develop some of that now, even to this day, though. Like some pressers now are done via Zoom, whereas
Yep.
used to be everything was in person. But anyway, is it, I should say, a big adjustment covering, professionally speaking, a professional team or professional teams here in Buffalo as opposed to college and high school?
I think it's an adjustment only it's obviously, yes, it's an adjustment, but I think it was such a big adjustment for me is because, you are around so many people who cover the Bills and the Sabres and everything that goes
Yeah.
around here. That's not necessarily the case in Tallahassee. Like, yeah, Florida State commanded its coverage, but I mean, Allison and I were the two best reporters that FAMU had,
Mhm.
because there's very rare HBCU coverage. And same with Valdosta because they're in our market and we're an hour and a half away from them. So you get into this, and I remember like the first day of training camp, and I saw 10 cameras and 40 people at the podium, and I'm like, what is this place? It's like
Yeah.
this is crazy. So that part of it is an adjustment because there are, like I said, there are people who are good at what they do here, and so you're the natural, like, you know, I don't know if it's like competitor or just, the inner me that just wants to, make my mark in this market and be good at what I do is looking at this like, okay, like I've got some work to do, which that in itself can be just like more of a mental adjustment to it. But I credit a lot of the transition and how easy I go back and really how it was to Matt. Because he took me and Breon, Bree Aldridge and I were hired 2 days apart from each other, excuse me. So we both start this journey kind of together. And Bree
Yeah.
had been in this business a little bit longer than I have, but this is her first time truly, I think, being in a professional market. I think she was in Colorado Springs where she got to do a lot with Denver, but like that's like Rochester almost in a comparison, having to come to Buffalo to cover things here. This is her first time, I think, being in a market where you have two professional teams in your backyard. Same with me. And, I credit Matt because he's good at what he does. He's obviously got himself a following. And I never felt flustered. I never felt like, like, oh man, I can't do this. Because even in the times where I needed some guidance, a little help here, I had Matt and the folks at Seven to kind of help push me along in that regard.
I uh I smile. If you're watching us on the video side, I smile when you say that and you bring up Matt because I go back to not all that long ago. Matt was you. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt today was Joe Biscaglia back then. You know what I mean? Kind of
Yeah.
mentoring and helping Matt get ready for his role and kind of help him hone his craft, such as I'm sure Matt's helping you do now in Brianna as well. I've never had Brianna on the show too, by the way. I've never even met her. So she's gonna be on my list of people that I definitely want to talk to. So just talk about like the relationships with the media, not necessarily the Channel 7 people that you work with covering sports, but this is a pretty tight knit, for the most part, sports media group here in Buffalo. Well, there's other TV people from other stations, print media, radio. Like for the most part, people here get along pretty damn well, actually, compared to other cities and people that I know and that I've talked to. Just were you a little bit surprised at how well your competition gets along? Like I said, you guys aren't necessarily all chummy with each other, but respectful and cordial towards each other. It's not cutthroat, is what I'm basically my long-winded question for you.
Yeah, it's never, to me, it's never felt cutthroat. And I understand change is difficult. I think for like the first 6 months, like a great example, and you talked about Matt Perino earlier. Matt's my guy. I love Matt Perino. John Scott and me get along great. But I felt like for the first 6 months, like John Scott said like two words to me. So you go around and you have those like conversation with someone, and you're like,
Yeah.
do they hate me? Like, am I just the new guy? It's just like my hazing I get is just the new guy here. And which I like, change is difficult, and you're trying to deal with the fact that Buffalo, the sports market here is a little bit of a revolving door in some aspects. There are a lot of people who come in and come out, and there's always new faces and stuff, but never once did anybody, and this goes to your point, which I agree with, is never once has anybody been disrespectful to me or has been blatantly like, I don't really care about you. You're a new guy here, and I'm just gonna like not. I'm gonna say
Right.
stuff behind your back. I'm gonna say it to you. Obviously, like none of that happens, which is it's nice. Again, going back to the conversation of like my own like anxiousness and anxiety, I guess is trying to feel like that I belong here, quote unquote, and I never had to worry about that being an issue, which was great. And I the Bills is the most recent media room I can think of, so I'll just use them for the sake of this. Is during locker room cleanouts and the press conferences with Beane and McDermott, and even during the playoffs and stuff, like everybody gets along really well. And it's nice
Yeah.
because I can have a conversation now with everybody. I can have a conversation with Josh Reed and Prusak, and when I see Sarah Holland at a Sabres game, and same with like John Acosta and I have become friends. Like Lindsey Moppert's a friend. Benini and I get along really well, which is nice because you come to a market where there's professional sports and you hear all like the old sports stories of like you think it's going to be like an anchorman butting heads and
Yeah, like the old guard doesn't wanna work with the new guard. I get it.
yeah, and to me at least, it doesn't happen. I can't speak for everybody, and I don't want to be, because I don't want someone to be like, well, Dom has always just been a jerk to me. I don't know what he's getting at. I hope that's not the case for anybody, but I don't want to speak for anybody necessarily. But no, and even with the Sabres, when I can get there and I'm in that room, like it's very very clear that I during the Bill season I'm in doing more Bills than we are Sabres.
Sure.
But when I get into like the Sabres room, like I don't feel like the new kid at the lunch table who's getting like side eye looks for like making his presence known here.
Yeah.
Everybody gets along. We're respectful because we all I think it's two Patriots. We all understand. We all understand where we come from. We all understand what we do. Journalism and sports media is so ever changing, and it's such a grind. And Lord knows none of us are probably paid the way we should be. I think everybody kind of has an understanding, like, hey, like this is a grind. Why are we going to put people down? Why would we gatekeep this?
Right.
Let's at least be respectful at bare minimum, and the bare minimum has been achieved and more.
Talk about so I've always thought that TV, sportscasting, broadcasting, what you do specifically can be hard because, well, for a lot of reasons, but one of them is you get on air and you only got a couple minutes to tell the stories. You know what I mean? You got to get right into it with your job, what you do, which is the reason why I love having people like yourself on this podcast because I think this does give fans an opportunity to know a lot more about you. But when you're doing TV news like you do, it's bam, bam, here's the points. I only get a couple minutes. Um, just being behind camera in general, I should have asked you this earlier too. I wanted to ask you this, and then I quite frankly I forgot. But
That's all good.
did it take you how long did it take you to get comfortable behind a camera? Because knowing that, hey, I want to be on this, I want to do that, I want to be a sportscaster, that's one thing. Being good at it's another. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
and I know a lot of it from firsthand from doing a lot of the stuff myself too. Just being on camera, being in front of the camera, I should say, was it a process for you just getting comfortable where when the lights are on, the camera's on, X amount of people are definitely watching you, just the nervousness that might come with it initially, and then just eventually getting comfortable with what you do?
Yeah, I think comfortable transitions for me into confidence. So I've
Sure.
never had a problem getting like I was always a good public speaker. I can sit here and talk about anything with anyone, but the confidence in being able to tell a story or have the viewer who's on the other side of the screen listen to me talk, watch me, and have the confidence to go, that guy knows what he's talking about. It goes to the beginning of my time here in Buffalo. Yes, I knew a lot about the Bills, but I also wasn't covering the team in an aspect like everybody else here was. So that was an adjustment I felt like for me was just to have the confidence in myself to, feel like, yeah, what I'm saying makes sense and people will respond to it. And that was the same when I was covering Florida State and all those other schools in Tallahassee. And same when I got to Montana, when I was trying to learn about this city that I moved to and what the heck am I doing here? So it's never the comfortability has been there, but it's the confidence
Yeah.
that allows you to really like, now I can find my style and I can just be Dom. And that's a thing I do appreciate about Seven and, and Matt and Aaron, my news directors. They've never asked me to be anything else. I've kind of to a fault, I've always been, the heart on the sleeve. When I was in the interview process for this job, I just remember like, hey, what you see is what you get. How you and I are talking, and you've seen enough of me now. This is how I am on air. I
Yeah.
don't, because I remember I got here and I was like, oh, big professional market, and I didn't have a beard at the time, but I remember like deepening up my voice a little bit and being a little bit more anchorman. And Aaron called me in the office, was like, Dom, I hired Dom. I didn't hire what you're doing. And I really respected that. That's probably one of the best criticisms, I've ever received, because, and to have that too, that will build up your confidence. And, it goes back to just being around people who know how to cover this team. And, I watch what other stations, I watch what my friends for the Buffalo News and print media put out too, because I think the knowledge, you can't have enough of it. And
Yeah.
that way I always feel like I know different viewpoints of arguments. I always feel like I have a grasp at what needs to be said, how the story needs to be told, what points to get to. And I've been thankfully, I don't know what it is. Early in my career, Patrick, I swear to God, I had every breaking news. Every breaking news would happen on days I'd be alone. Like when I first started in Montana, this was big news, but an old MSU alum named Danny Sprinkle got hired to be the head basketball coach. I had anchored one time professionally ever since I left college because I was just a Butte reporter. So I get sent to my boss Nick is off, so I'm anchoring an entire week by myself. And I'm like, whatever, it's fine. Debut, parents are going to be excited. Then Danny Sprinkle gets hired. I got to do breaking news in an hour. I have to get video element. I have to talk about this, try to get an interview. I'm like, oh my
Trial
God.
by fire.
Yeah, but that is the best way I've learned how to do this. Like I go back to Tallahassee when Bobby Bowden died. Like at 4:30, we knew it was coming, but at 4:30 in the morning, I remember on a Sunday, I got a call from my news director, and she said, "Hey, Bobby's dead." Like we had a plan, and she's like, "I need you at the Bobby Bowden statue for our 6 a.m. the beginning of our 6 a.m. show." And so you get thrown into those situations that allow that, for me at least, it's made me very comfortable to the point where, like, when I first started here, the Matt Ariza thing happened. That's not an easy thing for a sportscaster to
No.
talk about, because that's not what we do this job for, but that obviously comes with the job, but it's not what you envision the job to be. But I compartmentalize the information. I felt good about what I had to put on air in a very limited amount of time. And then obviously very recently with the Von Miller thing, you go through enough of those situations. Now, I feel good about the product that I put on air, at least, and how I handled it. And that just comes from, again, what you said, trial by fire
Yeah.
experience, just
Yeah.
kind of getting thrown in. And that's, you talk, your point too, is that's why I value starting in small markets. Because I guess what I did a lot in Butte, Pat, is I made mistakes. I made a bunch of mistakes.
Owned your
And
craft. You were
yeah,
holding your craft.
but
Yeah.
I can there though, because there's
Right.
the repercussions are less severe because I'm in, and this isn't a slight on the fine people of Butte and Bozeman television market, but like I can make mistakes there because it's easier for me to learn. The repercussions aren't nearly as severe, and people are just happy that you're trying and you're giving an effort. That's all and that's what a lot of small communities care about, is that you care about them as much as they care about you.
Yeah, it's a great point. A really good point, by the way. You go, yeah, nothing against Butte, Montana whatsoever. But if you go on air and you bomb, you're not going to get a shitload of tweets everyone but
Sure.
like you would definitely say in Buffalo. By the way, too, you mentioned your beard earlier. Your boy's you rock that beard well, man.
Thank you.
I lost a bet, a weight loss bet to my son because I'm a slob and I couldn't stop eating. I had to lose a certain amount of weight. And if I lost, I had to grow a beard for a certain length of time. I tried, one worked and I paid it off. I had to buy him something. So I was able to start shaving again. Beards ain't for everybody, man, but you are definitely you're rocking a solid one here.
Thank you.
Before we get to our fun fact finale, again, something I love doing that I haven't been able to do in a while because I haven't had a first time guest in a while. What have been so you've been here now, you've been in Buffalo, you've been in the area for a hot minute. What are a couple of like your favorite like food spots? Like where do you like going to eat?
All right, so I'll start with the wings. Let's do that. Let's get into Dom's quick ranking of his wings here. So this is, I mean, it doesn't deviate much from everybody else's. And now, granted, I actually see, like, you're a guy I see on Twitter who's at a lot of different wing spots. And quite frankly, I have not traversed as enough of the wing
Sure.
places I need to be. But I'm a barbell guy. It's my favorite wing. I think number two for me would be Elmo's. I love
Love.
Elmo's. Elmo's is great. And I had this. My buddies came in for that rescheduled Blackhawks Sabres game, so and we were looking for places after the game to go eat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd been there before, but I think the wings were cold because I was just eating off a friend's plate who offered them to me. I had Doc Sullivan wings the other day.
They're good.
Bloom, they were fantastic. Like they slid up into the third spot there. So those are kind of my top three spots. And that's with respect to people are gonna watch this and be like, how has he not? I have not been to 911 Tavern yet.
Yeah, that's got to change.
Yeah, and I know. So I just that's why I want to preference that too. I think Wing Nuts makes a good wing, but Wing Nut wings aren't traditional buffalo wings. I think it's different, which is fine. They're their own little niche category. And I talk about that with Perino all the time because I know how they work so closely with Wing Nuts. I love Wing Nuts. There's just they don't to me resemble what a buffalo wing
They're
is.
not a regular they're not the traditional type of wing. Yeah, bro, you got to get to 911. That's
10-4.
for starters. Make sure you bring cash cuz it's cash only.
Yep.
You got to get lucky to get a table. Sometimes it is horribly small in there. Everything about 911 is not fun until the wings come out and then there's just nothing better. I'm with you on Elmo's too. Elmo's is top 2 for me as well. Barbell's great. Barbell's getting a little bit overrated only just because everybody loves it.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's like, I say it's my number one because it's like, well, now it's kind of everybody's number one. And, and I, again, before the Chiefs game, I went out to Barbell actually on my dinner break with a couple buddies who were also in town for the Bills game and they hadn't had it before. It blew them away. And I was like, yeah, this is good. But it was exactly what I remembered. It's consistent. It's good. And that's why, you talk about like chains around here. I think Duff's has a good wing. I've never been
great wing.
I've never been upset with Duff's. And some people are like, Duff's is basic, whatever it is. Like Duff is absolutely up in the conversation for me just because I know what I get. They don't deviate from what they're good at. You have like 5 sauces to pick from. Great. Give me a medium. Because there's a little hotter. Great, wonderful.
I was going to say it's a lot hotter. I was going to say that's what comes with being a Buffalonian and the experience is just knowing some places like the ins and outs. Like I said, you go to 911, you better bring cash. You go to Duff's, and if you like medium wings, probably want to get like mildish to low medium because they run a size bigger. So if you get hot, you're going to get really, really, really hot at Duff's. What about couple like maybe like non-wing spots, and also like what area of Western New York have you settled into?
So settled into so far. So when I first moved here, I lived in Elmwood. So I had a lot of great spots up and down. Like I lived on Ashland, so I was right there. I mean,
I was around there.
I was a frequent at the Barkeep. I'm trying to think of the taco bar that's right there on the corner, and I can't think of its name. But obviously, there's so many restaurants. I love 40 Thieves is it's been one of my favorite restaurants to go to. Solid. I love 40. I think 40 makes really good food. Tapo is now I'm closer to downtown. Tapo is right there, as is Big Ditch. I think they all have some really good spots. I get it from my boss, the king of the North Towns, Matt Bovee, all the time is I need to venture up into
Grand Island.
Yeah, I need to venture up into the North Towns a little bit more and check out some spots up there. And like I haven't been to Mulberry, and I hear people rave about Mulberry. I went and I got food this summer with a buddy at Wayland Brewing down kind of Orchard Park area. I don't know if it's Wyland or Wayland. Had some food down there.
I haven't been there. I've heard of it.
It's a good summer spot. Really nice, like good setting, good atmosphere. Had some good food down there. That's been a really good spot. I think if I had to give you like a restaurant, and just because I go back so consistently, it's probably 40.
Yeah. Do you live like in the city right now?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. I am a 3-block walk from Salem Field.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
All right, let's wrap up here with a fun fact finale. I'm going to ask you 10 random questions, not a lot of deep thought required, kind of like rapid fire answers. Just like I said, one more chance to give people a chance to know a little bit more about you. We'll start favorite all-time athlete.
Mike Trout. It's Mike Trout forever. I feel so bad. For what the Angels are doing to him, for what Artie Moreno is doing to this poor man. And Shohei made the exit at the right time. I wish we had just traded him and got something for it. But I love Mike Trout. He reinvigorated my love for the Angels when there wasn't really anybody to be there. An honorable mention, too, is because I've been a fan of the Angels longer than I have been the Lakers. I kind of bandwagoned to the Lakers when they were bad, but respects to Kobe. I mean, he's the reason why I
Sure.
became a Lakers fan. So I have to
Yeah.
give an honorable mention to Kobe because I was thinking about that and I'm like, it's Mike, but Kobe has to get mentioned for me.
That's fair. All right. Go to late night snack.
Ooh, this is man lately because I've been trying to also lose some weight this year, but I found this thing that I like that helps kick my cravings for like when I want to order or like go down to Big Ditch or something like that. Is I get rice cakes, peanut butter, and honey. I
Hmm.
love that. I can eat those every meal if I needed to. It's a weird one.
It
But
works.
yeah, rice cakes with peanut butter and honey. I love that. I think
Uh,
I had a couple last night. You know, that's how I know.
favorite place that you visited?
Ooh. Glacier National Park, and up in Northwest Montana. When I tell people that God has real estate there, and they laugh and they're like, "Ha!" and I'm like, "No, He definitely does." Like,
Yeah.
there's no way. Like, I if I had him, I would show you the photos on my phone if it wouldn't take me a minute to scroll through. But that is breathtakingly beautiful. And we did like the highway to the sun road, it's called. We did the pretty tourist thing. None of us were equipped to be hiking to find like the real deep dive finds you can find in Glacier National Park. But it is immaculate. And if you are going to the Montana area, anybody listening to this, get to Glacier National Park and just be prepared to maybe have your jaw surgically fixed after it just keeps dropping.
Your first celebrity crush.
This is a good one. Shania Twain. Shania
Yeah.
Twain. Yeah,
Okay.
this is young 4-year-old me. I'll never forget it because my family had like a home video of it. We were at an aunt and uncle's house and I was playing this big bin of like trains and cars that they had and just, you know, little 4-year-old me. And, one of her songs came on a music video. I think they were watching like MTV, and Shania Twain came on. And there's this video of me. I stop in my track. I put my hands on the TV stand, and I'm just staring at Shania Twain. And all I did in the car ride home was go, "That girl is very pretty. She's beautiful." So yeah, Shania Twain.
All right. A fun fact about you that many people may not know.
This is because I know the larger audience here probably doesn't know. And I don't think you know this, so this would be cool. I was on and won on The Price is Right.
Really?
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
not know
So
that.
when I was in Los Angeles in that semester out there, my buddies and I attended, we got word about an all college episode of The Price is Right, meaning cash prizes, only college students get picked to go up. And it was part of like a school week promotion. We got free tickets. And that's the thing people don't understand too, is a lot of these tickets are free.
Sure.
We got free tickets. Um, got up on stage. I was one of the first four called down. It was insane. I did the dollar method on the bid to basically get up on stage. So the laptop I'm doing the Zoom on is part of the prize I won, along with a desk that I didn't take with me from Tallahassee. Just didn't have enough room for it, and it was kind of breaking. But that, and then $10,000, which when you're 21 and 10,000, you win
Damn.
$10,000 the snap of a finger. Yeah, it was crazy. It was
Wow.
absolutely wild. So, yeah, Price is Right is definitely, it's a highlight of my life. And if Matt Bovee watches this, or a couple other members of the Bills beat that I've told the story to, they're going to be so sick and tired of hearing about it. But it
That's
was,
awesome though, man.
yeah, it was sick.
That's awesome. What movie have you rewatched probably more than any other?
Easy. The Patriot, Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
My dad and
Okay.
I love that movie. And a close second is Braveheart. I don't know what it is about the Mel
You're a
Gibson
Mel
war
Gibson
movies,
guy.
but yeah, I just know those two movies, man. Like The Patriot, I could probably recite the monologue to it. Like I could take on any role, and I could take Heath's role, I could take Mel's role, the children's role. I've watched that movie so much, and I don't know. It's just it's a great movie. I know it's a, I was came out when I was young, so it took me a while, obviously, to finally get permission to watch it with my dad. But it's a fantastic movie.
That's really cool. All right, two more here. I want you to call yourself out. What's a bad habit that you have?
Mhm. Ooh, that would be. Oh, I'm a chronic nail biter. I bite the
Yeah.
heck out of my nails, especially when I'm a little nervous, or like I'm pushing deadlines and stuff like that. Like my nails, I gotta stop. I gotta stop doing it. My dentist hates it. because she's like, I don't want you to ruin your smile. Your teeth are so nice. Why would you bite your nails? You're gonna ruin all this. And I'm like, I can't help it. They're biteable, and it's just like it's like a nervous thing I get to is just nail biting.
All right, I lied to you when I said I only had 2 more. I actually got a couple more.
That's
A
okay.
go-to karaoke song. All right, let's say this. Let's say you
Mm-hmm.
and I are at we're at Wingnuts, okay? And we're having some wings and they got some
Cool.
karaoke going on there. And in this world, whether you are a great singer or you're the worst, shittiest singer in the world like me, but in your world, you're a good singer, man. And I say, yo, there's karaoke going on. Get up there, Dom. Go sing something. And you get up there. What's a song that you're gonna sing that you think you're gonna nail, or that people who are watching along are gonna get into?
Yeah, I think you have to, because I'm like you, Pat. I'm not a good singer, but I'll crush karaoke. I did that all the time in college. I will get on stage, and I think it's when you suck, it's about entertaining. You got to get the
Agreed.
people
Agreed.
involved.
Agreed.
So for me, it's "Everybody" by the Backstreet Boys.
That's
That
a good one. That's a
that
good
song
one.
will get the people going.
You know who actually is a good singer among you media folk? I don't know if you knew this or not. Sal Capaccio is actually a really good singer. He's a good crooner,
Stop.
man. No, he is.
Sal,
Yeah, Sal Capaccio is a very good singer,
that dude
actually.
is so
Yeah, he'll
Italian, dude.
sing.
It
He
kills
is.
me.
He'll sing some Italian crooner songs. He's
I
actually
love that.
he's really good at it. Um, you kind of answered this earlier, but I'll ask again, just in case it's a different answer. But if doing what you do now, if being in this line of work hadn't worked out for you, like you gave it a go, man, it just shit wasn't meant to be for whatever reason. What do you think you'd be doing right now with your life?
The forensic science answer that I gave earlier, that dream I had to give up on in like 10th grade. I loved chemistry class. I did awful on the test. I
Yeah.
did great in labs. Math and science were my 2 worst subjects, hence why I do what I do. So, honestly, I did this a lot when I'd come home on school breaks and to get some extra money was I reffed basketball. I would love to be a basketball referee.
Okay. That's a
If
good
I
one.
were to have to like pivot side careers, I would try to get back like be a full time referee. I don't know if
My,
something about it, and I enjoyed doing it, and I always thought it'd be a cool thing to dabble in, so to speak.
my friend and recurring guest, Tone Pucks, who does this show with me pretty much once a week. He's an official. He does basketball and football and baseball as well. He enjoys it too, so that's a good one. All right, last one here. You could have 3 dinner guests, 3 people at your crib, having dinner, a couple drinks or whatever. Anybody, celebrity, dead or alive, any era, whether it's going to be someone who's going to make you laugh, just conversations that you
Hmm.
want to have, whatever it may be. Give me 3 people, dead or alive.
Yep. All right. I have a wide range of answers on this one when I was
All
pondering
right.
it. So I have an answer. Frank Sinatra. Love Frank. I love his
Okay.
music. I've always just been intrigued by his life. So I'd love to just like have dinner with him and pick his brain. Real life I was tossed up between LeBron and Mike Trout, but since I've already used Mike and I would love to pick LeBron James's brain
Sure.
too. I would love to take LeBron, and then I think my other one, man. See, I had this answer, and I don't know if it's because I don't want this to end on some like somber-ish note. But
Okay.
I would love to have dinner with my grandma again one day.
That's
Like
fine. Sure.
that would be sick. So those are my 3: grandma, LeBron James, Frank Sinatra, with a a honorable mention to Zach Brown of the Zach Brown Band, because that's my all time favorite group, favorite artist. So, but I
Cold
gotta give love to grandma.
Colder Weather by the Zach Brown Band, one of my favorite songs of all time. And I'm not even that big of a country guy, but I love that song. Like I got a Spotify, I got a handful of playlists. And then I got a really short playlist, like my go-to one. And
Mm-hmm.
Colder Weather by Zach Brown Band.
Oh,
That's it, man.
timeless. It's that's like the song. Like it's not a good karaoke song, but go back to your
Oh,
karaoke. Like I'd sit up there. I would think I sound like Marvin Gaye singing it. I liked how confident I would be. I would put my heart and the soul in that song. That is the epitome of a song. When you are in a car on a road trip, you are belting at with all the power in your lungs when it hits that last bridge into the last chorus. It's great. So I'm glad we both mutually have an affection for colder weather, because it is
yeah,
a
for
fantastic
sure.
song.
And you bring up going back to karaoke too. You're right, because some people sing great, some people are terrible singers, but they have fun and they enjoy karaoke, what it's supposed to be. It's weird because we could be doing the show at Imperial Pizza, sponsor of the show. We could have the PA. There could be 100 people staring at us, and I wouldn't think twice. I'm completely comfortable with that. But you get me on at karaoke and make me try to sing a song because I know I'm bad at it. And some people just don't care, but I'm bad. Like there could be 5 people in the bar, and I'm gonna be nervous as hell. It's just weird.
Yeah, and listen, it's always easier if I got a hay burner or two in me before I get up
Oh.
on stage. Like, yeah, then we're cooking. Then I might remix the song, and then I'm gonna freestyle. And they're gonna be like, what is this guy doing up here?
All right, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. This was a lot of fun, a good chat. Like I said, an opportunity for people to get to know more about you beyond just the great work that you're doing at Channel 7. Make sure you follow Dom on Twitter too at Dom Tibbetts TV. A lot of fun, bro. Appreciate you having on, man. This
Dude,
was
Patrick,
fun.
this was awesome, man. We're coming on over an hour here. I could have kept going if we wanted to, but I know we both got things to do today. But no, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on, and look forward to coming back on. Be a recurring guest anytime.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, man. I appreciate everybody who's watching, listen to this, and I'll be back with a brand new episode tomorrow. Talk to you then.